Welcome to the OtherWorldsGG Community Cast. This is episode number 14. I am Table for Two, and joining me is Mellified and Alien Pickle. How y'all doing today?
I am doing wonderful. How are you doing, Pickle?
I'm just ready to send in the news.
Yeehaw!
Send
News.
it in.
NEWS, not the other thing, you pervs.
Send your news.
Oh my.
Oh my. Yeah, man. It's been since the hiatus. There's been quite a bit of news, so we're not going to be able to cover everything. But there's definitely some worthwhile.
Do we ever
things.
though?
No, that's true. That's true. But there's definitely some worthwhile things to talk about. And I think the one for me, right off the bat, the big one is that EA Play is finally on Xbox Game Pass for PC. Thank
Yahoo!
the Lord. It certainly did take them a while to get to that. And what's funny is I guess they finally just decided to say, well, we'll just like shunt the beta in the faces of everybody. So if you weren't in on the beta of the new EA app, you certainly have to be now if you want to play any of the EA Play games on PC. So.
But I actually understand why they had to do it, because the old way that the Origin client worked, and this worked, like with Steam or whatever too, is if you went to the EA Play thing on Steam and bought it, and then you get a game in your account, and you look at the key for the game, then you take that key back to Origin and redeem it on another account. Now you own the game forever. So they had to make some modifications.
Yeah, there was a little bit of a jank in there with some of their key-based stuff that didn't quite work out so well. So, but I'm glad that things are finally moving forward, because it's like you're paying for stuff that you're supposed to have, and then you don't have it. So it's good to see it in there. I'm just really excited because Game Pass as a whole just continues to get better. I know we record these episodes out of order, so you might hear some foreshadowing. But the fact that they finally put like GTA on there, and some other stuff's coming out, and like also the cloud gaming stuff is coming right along. So I'm pretty excited about that.
All the Bethesda games, now that they officially own Bethesda, have pretty much made it to Game Pass.
The full completion of the acquisition of the ZeniMax Bethesda thing is just bonkers. The fact that's a thing is just really crazy. I was joking in our Discord, I think it was last week, how nutty would it be if like Microsoft were to buy like Rockstar or something like that, which they're not going to, but it'd be funny if they did.
Yeah. I mean, it's the mind boggles at what Microsoft could do next. I never would have expected them to spend $8 billion on Bethesda or ZeniMax. So,
yeah, I don't understand how that works, because over what time frame do you have to actually recoup that money?
Good question. Yeah. I mean, Microsoft, I think, is in the gaming space for the long haul, or they wouldn't be buying up all these studios. And so it may be as long as, 10 years, potentially. But I guess we'll see.
So that means there is a chance that Skyrim 2, Elder Scrolls 6, whatever, will actually come out.
There's a small chance. Let's not overpromise here, but yeah.
It is pretty nuts though, considering how they've definitely taken that approach of like, let's just throw everything we can at the gamer to get them to get on Game Pass. It's definitely that, like, once the foot's in the door, boy howdy. So,
well, and the argument is pretty great, right? It's like you can buy a PlayStation and have no games, and then start buying games, or you can buy an Xbox and it comes with all the games, so you don't need to buy games.
Well, and it's interesting too, because Sony's done some moves to counter this. They've been improving the quality of the games that are out for their PlayStation Plus freebie games each month. They've been including like a PS5 game, which typically has been a new release the last few months. As well, Sony started offering a library of 20 older PS4 titles that, of course, play on the PS5 for free if you are a owner of a PS5. You do have to redeem it from a PS5, but you do get a bunch of games for free. So they are trying to be competitive, but it's just nowhere. It's not even in the same league, really.
Yeah, but then on the Nintendo Switch, they reacted by
no.
Yeah.
They didn't. I mean, you do get some free, NES and SNES titles through their online service, but yeah, they haven't really done anything.
What happened to the thing of being able to put the Xbox app on your Nintendo Switch?
Well, that was never meant to be like you can stream games to that. That, from my understanding, that's not what that was for. That was for like cross-play stat type thing. So like if there's a game that you have that was, I think, if I remember correctly,
right? I remember this. Cuphead has the Xbox APIs integrated into it on the Switch, so you sign in with your Xbox Live account, and you have access to your achievements and stuff on Switch.
Right. Oh, thank God. Because what else would I do if? Okay.
Well, that was what Microsoft shipped, because they shipped that for mobile, and now they shipped it for Switch. What do you call it? Nintendo allows that. But also you have Minecraft on PS4, and Sony did finally sort of allow Microsoft to integrate Xbox Live sign-in to Minecraft. So they brought a bunch of features that were held back by that.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not like you're getting, game streaming to these devices. So unfortunately, that's not what it is. But you certainly can on your phone these days. And Mellified, you definitely had one highlighted there that I think is kind of funny.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up. That Microsoft is actually indirectly supporting the opposite path,
which is weird.
Which is bizarre. But what's happening is the Xbox consoles, the Series X and One X, or Series and One consoles, are going to be getting an updated version of Edge Chromium in a future release of the Xbox, OS software, and that is in testing right now. And this new version of Edge can run a bunch of tools like what is it? Moonlight is the one to do Steam streaming. It can do
Moonlight is one, and I think at least at one point it was NVIDIA had something that lets you do the same thing. Yeah, it's the GeForce Now support on Edge.
Oh, right,
that's
right.
What it is.
So you can actually stream PC games to your Xbox, which just sounds so bizarre. But this is the way things are going, right? And with that same support, you can also run Discord. It's got some issues with audio devices still to work out, but you can actually run the web version and the web app of Discord on your Xbox, and at least chat with your friends. And I don't know that that'll work in the background, which is really what you'd really I think you'd want. But
so if you've always wanted to play Death Stranding on your Xbox, now you can.
yeah. How bizarre, right? I just the world is converging, though. And if we saw PlayStation Now get a web app, you could play, your PS3, PS4 games on Xbox, which I'm pretty sure that's when we just all ascend to the next plane of existence. But
so what I don't understand is the Xbox is actually a Windows PC hooked up to your television, right? And it just has the Xbox desktop instead of the Windows desktop. So why could I not just buy a Windows game through the Microsoft Store and then run it on my Xbox? Or like I own Office 365, and I could fire it up on my Xbox.
Well, that
At
was
some
certainly.
point,
Go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, at some point, it's just like just hook up a keyboard and mouse and a monitor to an Xbox, and you have a small form factor PC by Microsoft. So what? Let's do that, huh?
Well, and that was sort of the point of their whole UWP initiative, was writing an app once that could run on any platform, mobile, Xbox, PC, or the tablet, Windows. But it seems like they've
for Nokia.
Yeah, it seems like they've kind of backed off of that a little bit. But the Quarrel, which is the UWP third-party Discord app, runs on PC and Xbox using that UWP framework. So it may still happen. I mean, part of bringing games to Game Pass on PC is the developers have to port them to UWP, the UWP framework. Which is actually funny because it actually leads into one of our other stories. Because developers are having to go back and port these games into UWP, when they do that, they're doing it with the latest code base of the games, which have a bunch of fixes that never made it to the Steam versions. So not only are you getting a better value with Xbox Game Pass for PC, but as a weird side effect, there are multiple games, Nier and The Evil Within are two, Nier Automata, that actually the Windows Store version is the best version of the game because it has a bunch of bugs fixed and new feature, and in some cases some new features.
That's truly a freaky twist.
It is.
And then you see like Nier getting review bombed on Steam because the developers haven't brought the fixes over there.
Yep. So I mean the world is just topsy-turvy is all I can say. It is very strange. Oh, and Table, we forgot to mention while we're on this topic, Microsoft is now allowing people to cloud play or stream, over the internet, backward compatible games. So you can go back and play games from the original Xbox and 360.
If they continue, seriously, I'm not even kidding. If they continue to go down the road that they're going, they could be a strong competitor to Valve. Valve has a very huge corner on the PC market right now, right? But with what Microsoft is actually doing to get back into the pockets and the hands of the PC player, with all of the stuff that they're doing with their cloud initiatives, with their Game Pass initiative, with their crossplay initiative between the Xbox, it's so wild to me. I took my laptop over to my buddy's place the other day, and he'd never played Sea of Thieves before, but he has an Xbox One S, and I gifted him Game Pass Ultimate, and so he got Sea of Thieves on there, and I'm on my laptop plan, and he's sitting there on his Xbox plan, and we're just having a grand old time. Just kind of and we're both playing with controllers. I finally got to try out using my Elite controller with Sea of Thieves finally.
Oh, nice!
And
nice.
I actually really enjoyed that. That was actually kind of a better experience than I was anticipating. But it was just so funny that we're sitting here on two. I guess for what it's worth, different devices playing the same game in the same room together. It was kind of funny.
Well, at this point, what I'm really hoping for is Microsoft just keep it up, right? My issue has never been, can Microsoft do the cool thing? It's, will they sustain it? Because I look back at, games for Windows Live and other, in the Xbox 360 to Xbox One transition, they do really well until they don't. And I totally get people who have a deep well of skepticism that they can keep this up over the next, several years.
Well,
I hope they do.
Well, it's kind of funny because you look at this, and then you look at what Google did with Stadia, and you're just everybody freaking looked at Google what are you doing?
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't mean to laugh over you, but oh god, yeah, it's just such a boondoggle.
You're entering into a realm of people who've already been doing this for decades at this point, right? And you've got someone like Microsoft who's already got such a huge infrastructure that they're utilizing, and they've built so much around their game platform. And then Stadia comes into play, and it's just like it's yet Google doing another thing. Like people looked at Google like, well, this is cool, and it's just like, no, this is another flop house. Like, you guys know this because, I mean, the most recent obvious thing is Google Stadia's exclusive Bomberman game is now heading to the PC. Like,
yep.
it
One of the only exclusives they had.
It's just like time and time again, like this project is proving that, like, guys, like, Google was never meant to be in this space. They shouldn't have been in this space. Like I get that some of their ideas were unique, but like, man, like, no, stop.
Well, I think they could have built the platform and not tried to become, have exclusive games. And I think they would have potentially done better, right? Which is more the NVIDIA approach.
Well, no,
in terms of philosophy.
The NVIDIA approach was just like, we've got a cool piece of tech that will, like, let you utilize, and it's not really going to cost you that much, but like, here's this cool piece of tech. Like, I was beta testing their streaming technology from, like, their whatever they call their GeForce Now, and like, I beta tested that for years with them. And even their, like, in-home streaming stuff that they offered with the NVIDIA, because Moonlight, you were talking about Moonlight actually takes advantage of that NVIDIA tech, right? So,
well, specifically, I was thinking like the GeForce service that lets you rent a
right.
PC to run the games on. If Stadia had kind of taken more of that approach and less of a, we're going to become a console. There was a really good article, very, very long article, but a good article that said, part of the reason Stadia did what they did is because the people they hired were console people. And so they were trying to wedge this cloud-based system into a console business model.
Well, that's what makes me curious about, like, Luna, right? Like, I know, I know it's kind of maybe a sensitive subject for you, but with Luna though, like, it does make me like, and the funny thing about Luna is it does not seem to be as in the public eye. Like, I don't feel like Amazon's putting a lot out there. I think they're just like, we're putting it out there, but we're not really talking about it.
It is still in beta first, so yes, they're kind of doing a slow burn on it, and I think they're also trying to learn from Google's mistakes. Right, you see a very capable tech company fall flat on their face like Google did, and that's got to be a cautionary tale if you're smart, at least. So I do think they're being very careful with Luna, but it is a platform that has partnered with developers rather than trying to compete with them.
Right.
So,
correct. Yes.
Like, I am in the beta for Luna. I have the Luna controller. I bought it. I am also an Amazon employee, as Table sort of alluded to by way of Twitch. So, I wanted to try it out, though, just for my own personal interest. So I got the Ubisoft $15 a month all-in PC subscription, which gives you the ability to play any of the games you get through that Ubisoft sub on Luna or Stadia for free. Well, as part of the $15 subscription, I guess, technically. You don't have to pay anything extra to Luna or anything extra to Stadia, is what I was trying to get at. So the cool thing is I can just go play those Ubisoft games. I don't have to download them. It doesn't cost me anything extra. And I don't have, I can just sort of fire them up and try them. And Ubisoft, to their credit, has been pushing a new technology that they've developed over the last year or two, where they are doing cross progression for their PC games with the console version.
Right.
So if you play on Luna, unlike a lot of Stadia stuff, if you play on Luna, what you do there carries over. And if you pick the game up later on PC, it's the same progress.
Right. And I think that's hugely important. But I think the thing that I'm also ultimately getting at, though, is like, if I So like when Nvidia did their thing, it was literally you can do one of two things. You can either rent essentially a PC in the cloud, and like they you could like buy some games from that, but like they were tying they eventually switched gears to like tying it to your stuff. So like I'm renting a computer in the cloud, but I'm logging into my Steam account with my games, and I'm playing my games through the cloud to my device, wherever that device is. Um, and to me, that was kind of a big deal because, like, what if you're like in transition, you don't have a computer for a little while, but you have really good internet and a pretty solid smartphone. You want to play and a controller, and you want to play something, or maybe you just have like a cheaper laptop, right? And you're traveling and you want to play some games and stuff like that. So, it was a better thing because it was like you're bringing your games with you. Um, I do like the cross-platform thing, but that almost alludes to the fact that like I own it here, but then I also have to own it over there, but the data is the same on the back end.
Yeah, I mean, I've sort of accepted that for the most part, we are never going to get the Disney key chest style of buy it once and you own it everywhere.
Well, I mean,
like we do for movies,
because
but
that was Nintendo's thing. That was always a problem to me, and most of that shit was in the cloud, right? Like, so, like,
yeah,
Nintendo, like, there's been like what 3 different iterations of their online store at this point, and I feel like at least in 2 of them, I've bought the same games a couple of times. It's not just one like eShop that I can purchase these things from and then play on whatever like Nintendo device I happen to be on.
yeah. Theoretically, they're because the big issue was the DS, the 3DS series of consoles, and then the Wii and the Wii U. It was all hardware locked. So when you made a purchase, it was linked to the serial number of the device. Then if that device broke, you had to beg Nintendo to move your licenses, essentially.
And I just don't think that's a fair like thing for the
Oh,
consumer. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I agree. But with the Switch, they finally fixed it. For what it's worth, you actually do have an account that owns these digital licenses, independent of any hardware, and you can change which is your primary console and all that kind of fun stuff.
so here's ultimately what I'm getting at. If Luna is tied to some of these developers, say like let's use the Ubisoft example. Like I know we're kind of going off a little bit from the news, but if we're using Ubisoft as the example here, like let's say I have my Ubisoft account connected to my Luna account, and I buy a game through Ubisoft on Luna, but like I've bought it, it's in my Ubisoft account, even though I bought it like on Luna through like Ubisoft, right?
At this point, you can't do that.
It would be nice if you could, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, it'd be nice if, like, because, like, when I bought, say, what was it, Star Trek Bridge Crew on Steam, that was connected to my Ubisoft account. So, ideally, I could just download it straight through my Ubisoft account instead.
Right.
I think that's.
But you don't buy games on Luna today, at least.
Right. I'm not saying you would buy the games on Luna, but it was like you're buying, like, through the third party. You know what I'm saying? Like. Anyway.
Well, so what you're saying is if you wherever you bought it, you'd like to be able to play it on Luna if you own it, or
right. If there's like some kind of an agreement, like if I have just as an example, like if they were to partner, if Microsoft were to partner with Luna, for example, and I own Halo already, and I'm already paying for a Luna subscription, I can just go ahead and play like my Microsoft games through Luna, that kind of a thing.
Yeah, that would be interesting for sure.
Because I think I think Luna could really take off. In other words, like I mean, I know it's a false perception, but give people the perception that they're owning their games.
Oh yeah, I'm with you. Like I think that would be really interesting, but I think what we've seen with movies, at least, is and TV shows is people don't care about owning it. They're perfectly happy to stream it.
Sure, that's fair.
In many cases, so I think the games industry is queuing off of that, in large part. But
well, and you also come off of a mindset where people used to trade in games. Like Yeah, I played it, I beat it, and then I went and traded it back for like a quarter of what I bought it for, so I can apply that toward my next purchase. Versus, hey, I played it and I'm going to keep it forever because like 5 years down the road, I might want to be like, hey, I should play that again.
Yeah, I very early on was kicking myself for trading in games that later got, you know, significant DLC or updates that I wanted to play. And so I just made a personal decision not to ever trade in any games. And so I have a horde of 360 games in my garage that I probably need to get rid of most of. But
yeah,
it was neat, I mean, you know.
It's like the intention, I think, was like you deal with people that, you know, it's like kids and their allowance money, right? It's like, okay, well, I only got $20, but this game costs $30. So if I trade in the last game, you know, then I can get it over the limit. But you know, I mean, we're like adults, so we have funding for this stuff. Like, you know, a $20 versus a $50 game, I don't cry. But you know,
yeah, I mean, I have been known to describe GameStop as a company, a pawn shop that takes advantage of math illiterates, but you know, it is an interesting space that we're in where ownership is not as central to the experience as it once was. And I think Table, to your point, you know, that's a little uncomfortable. It certainly is for me. I know, even though I am, you know, trying it out with Ubisoft.
Right. Well, it'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to hearing how it goes, because I think Luna definitely is taking the different approach. Because even with Stadia being in beta, like there was so much press and buzz about it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And now it's kind of like it's definitely gotten quieter.
Well, Luna's also Amazon Game Studio has not been terribly successful historically, so I suspect there's some assumptions being made, shall we say?
Sure. Well, let's now that we've gotten derailed on that, let's move along. There's some pretty cool things going on. There's some people just absolutely love Mass Effect, right? And some people love it more than others, to the point where a bunch of Mass Effect fans have been recreating the game as I guess a LucasArts or maybe even like a Sierra point and click adventure game. This is pretty cool looking. I don't know if you guys seen this, but yeah, they got together. There's some really cool like screenshots of it. I would be down for an old school game like this. I mean, there is something to be said for like a niche like retro thing. I mean, you look at like 3030 Death War as an example. You know, it's a modern game or a more modern game with like a retro style to it. There's still a market for it.
Yeah. I mean, there's been a few examples of the genre kind of coming back. This particular one is on itch.io, which is a kind of an indie publishing platform. And the name of it, because they of course don't own Mass Effect, so they can't use the name Mass Effect. The name of the game is The Adventures of Commander Shepard with 1 P. So if you're looking for it.
Oh yeah, the full Adventures of Commander Shepard. Right?
That is what the article that I linked says, but it's actually not that on itch. Okay. Which is slightly confusing. What's funny is the guys who made The Adventures of Commander Shepard, the adventure game we're talking about, updated the itch page recently and said they are working on a legendary edition to celebrate the Mass Effect trilogy remaster, and their new version will offer a even more retro art style. So it'll be more of an 8-bit versus 16-bit style graphics, but they're adding full voice acting, more puzzles, more Paragon versus Renegade choices. You can play with Fem Shep or Male Shepherd, and some translations. So Yeah, I mean, it's only like an hour and change of gameplay, although maybe the extended version will add to that. But it looks, I mean, it's free, so like you can't go wrong.
Nice.
All right, let me get back to our show notes so that I can actually look at our next news story. Watchdog Legions got an online mode. This was originally it's a co-op mode that was promised at launch, and then they delayed the co-op mode. That finally launched for consoles. It's been in beta, I think, for PC for a little bit. I haven't had a chance to try this, but I know Table, you and I said we would give this a shot at some point. So looking forward to trying that.
Yeah, I actually need to get the game, but I'll probably get it once it comes out because I've been kind of holding off for a little while.
Yeah, I know you had mentioned there were some mixed reviews of it. One of my kids actually played through the whole game and really enjoyed it, but he's a big fan of the Ubisoft open world stuff, so I don't know. He's a little biased, I guess.
I mean, I am too. For what it's worth, I think Watch Dogs 2 was one of the better games they've ever done. Between that and Ghost Recon Wildlands, once they finally like patched the flying stuff, that I think Wildlands was one of their better games, and I absolutely loved. What was it? Shoot, The Division. I thought The Division was great. Now their co-op left a lot to be desired because you couldn't quite level properly, but they've since fixed that in Division 2. So in the Division 2, you can be different levels and actually play with each other finally, and it actually be meaningful. Because beforehand, like I'd be level 15, and Pickle would be level 5, and he'd get decimated because they scaled up to me instead.
Yep.
So.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I do love a lot of their open world stuff. I was not too much of a fan of the newer Wildlands that they did, or whatever that new Ghost Recon was that they did.
Well, at launch, I would say it was. I think you were completely justified. It's worth another look. They've done a ton of updates to it, and they've made it so you can basically put it in a mode that is exactly like Wildlands, which is probably one of the best open world games ever. Period. Full stop.
Yeah,
but I don't find the content super engaging with the way that they have done it. It's like you're running around and here comes a helicopter, just like the other 500 times I've had a helicopter spot me, and I kill it the same way. And it's like, hey man, if the helicopter spots you, then perhaps they should just call on the radio and like all the bad guys come and it's a real bad scene. But no, I just kill that helicopter and it stops annoying me. They haven't discovered radios.
Yeah, I mean, the bad guys do call in, the spotter drones at least do call in, hit squads, but yeah, I know that they've improved at least the loot system, which I really didn't like. They've given you AI companions if you're playing solo, which was a big miss, I think, of the game at launch. So at least for me, some of those things have been fixed. But yeah, I maybe haven't played enough to feel that sameness come through.
Well, like a lot of games, I sometimes get mixed feelings about them. And Stellaris is definitely one of those computer games that I loved, then hated, then loved, and now I don't know if I even want to try and give it another chance, because that game just constantly changed over and over and over again with all the different updates and DLC that they've added to it.
Yeah.
I feel like they finally have slowed down on it to a point where maybe it's worth checking out again, but there's a Stellaris board game, and I think the title of this article is freaking hilarious because it says the Stellaris board game will change permanently as you play it. Like, have you not played a big board game before? Like,
yeah, that's kind of a trend in that space for sure.
It's not the first time that a board game does this.
No, but it's hilarious in the context that they have a
Right.
board game that continuously changes. And
That's
it's like,
that's where the joke was gonna go, and thank you for finishing it for me. But yes, the board game that also continuously changes as you play it, just like the computer game.
it's like,
What-
what's the rules this week, boss?
I don't know. We'll find out. Everything is warplanes now. Warplanes. That's what the new trend is. That's what the market wants.
They could call it World of Warplanes.
Oh God.
Yeah.
But
that's pretty cool though. I mean, good for them for having a board game at least. I'm down on big board games and big galactic board games. As a matter of fact, I was looking at trying to acquire a copy of Twilight Imperium recently. Boy, howdy, is that shit still expensive.
So speaking of board games, so our bro Dex got like the last copy of the EVE Online board game in Europe,
Card
I
game.
guess.
Card game.
The card game, rather, yeah. So he was talking about like the booster packs that were still sealed, and he was gonna like open them, but he was kind of sweating.
No,
it's like, really?
He did. No, so the card game is still out there. So there's a lot of people like on eBay that are like selling these things and whatnot, but as the years go on, they get increasingly harder to find because people will buy them up. But like you can buy like whole cases still on like Amazon or on eBay, like of unopened card packs and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. I thought this was something that was like way out of print, and that's why he was sweating opening booster packs.
It is out of print, but he was getting excited about it because there's a lot of like rare stuff in there, some rare artwork, and it's just kind of like you're messing with something that's kind of like you're
yeah.
Not a lot of people are gonna have it, so it's kind of
right. Well, that's me in any game here in Raleigh. Is just like there's nobody that plays anything, so it's like I just need to get like my own volleyball and put a face on it, and then I can put it across the table and play.
Well, that was the problem even with me living in the Charlotte area, which was like, I mean, I knew people who played board games, but they lived across the city, and it was just like, do I want to take 40 minutes to drive over there just to play a board game?
Yeah, and that's why it was like the business of here's the game store, and then we have like a section of the store that is actually a social space to sit and play the games that you buy at the store, which is a great idea because if people are in there and they want to join in a game and they don't have it, well, it's for sale right over here at the register. But you can get introduced to a lot of things because I'm in the store to buy one thing, but hey, there's these other people that are over there playing this other cool thing. Let me stop and watch for a minute, right? So it's in the heyday, the game store was actually like a mini convention every weekend because who knows what the hell's going on those tables over there. Let's go look.
Yeah, Games Workshop, when I visited some of their stores, would have a painting, like a minis painting area, and you'd have 3 or 4 people in there just kind of hanging out, painting their minis, which was a pretty intimidating way to get involved in the board game if you just want to play the tabletop, because some of those guys are
no, see, that's
painters.
a career move because those people hang out and then you buy miniatures and it's like, that guy can paint them so much better that, hey, what do you charge for
I looked at having a local person paint one of my sets of I think it's Warcry, one of the Warcry board games, and it was $100 board game. It was gonna be $1,000 to get it painted, so I did not opt.
And we're out.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that is a going rate, to be clear. Like I asked around and kind of checked with some folks, and that seemed pretty consistent because it is a lot of work. I mean, especially doing a nice job on that many minis. So,
yeah.
But I just do not have the patience for that. I'd be happy if I just even got them put together. That's where I run out of interest.
You have a box of unassembled Space Marines somewhere.
I do. Yeah,
everybody does.
My Blood Bowl board game. I assembled them all, and then they all kind of started popping apart because I didn't glue them together. And I was just like, yeah, I don't.
Well,
I don't
see,
care.
the thing about Games Workshop is there was one in Charlotte, but it was like, are there any other board game stores around here? Well, there kind of is, but they're like hidden and like in weird alleys and just like I don't know. It's just
we have a couple around here, but I've only been to one, and I wasn't super impressed.
So here's an idea for a Twitch channel that I'm not going to do, but anybody else feel free. But Tabletop Simulator, right? And it's people that play board games, but it would have to be like a consistent group of people that really like board games and are good with Tabletop Simulator. So it's just like, what are we playing, this week on Tabletop Simulator on the show or whatever.
Right.
I think Captain Shack did stuff like that. No, hold on. Hear me out for a second. I know because Jim and I have a thing about him and his like space engineers, like pre-scripted gameplay videos that they do.
Can you imagine like Captain Shack and his gang? They're going to play Monopoly, but it's a custom scenario. See, so we're going to role play Monopoly, and it's going to.
Well, no, what I was going to get at though is he would do live streams of him building out Star Wars RPG tabletop builds, and he'd have the full table full of like set pieces and miniatures, and he was doing all the scripting, but he was streaming him building it out, and doing the scripting and stuff for it, which I thought was actually kind of cool.
I have zero interest in doing any of that. I don't use. I have Tabletop Simulator, but I never use it because I want the game to tell me what the rules are. I want the game to enforce the rules. I don't want to have to remember all that intricacy.
Thankfully, though, there's been a lot of people who've put the scripting out there for stuff, so you can go out there, and there are things like I've done a couple of game nights. I forget the name of the game, but it was like a deck builder game in Tabletop Simulator that was actually a lot of fun, and it worked out really well because the game was already fully scripted for a lot of the stuff. You pick up the cards and then you shake them and it shuffles them, and then you just put the deck back down, and then you draw what you need into your hand and only you can see it. And it was actually kind of neat how that worked out. But I've seen some other ones, and they've actually had some third party board game makers, like The Captain is Dead. They actually put out an official DLC for Tabletop Sim. Now, of course, they have a digital version of the game too you can play.
That has nothing to do with the board game, though.
Yeah,
in fact, it's a single player game. It's like, what the hell?
Weird. It's a little weird.
Yeah.
Yep. But they, some board game makers have put out their own official DLC for Tabletop Sim, and they've got the full custom stuff. They have the rule set right there. Basically, all you have to do is just move your pieces around on the table, and you're good to go. It's a lot of fun. And one of these nights, maybe we should try and get into it, and I can show you guys the ropes, and we can actually play something for a community night. But I think it's worth it.
Fair enough. Well, yeah, I'd be interested to try it. I've never actually done it, so I wanted to burn through a couple of stories that we had.
Please do.
There's over 700 prototypes and betas that were accumulated. These have never been released before for the PlayStation 2 that all got dumped recently. Project Deluge is the name of it. So if you're into PS2 retro gaming stuff, that might be something to look for. Warframe got its space combat overhauled. It's supposed to be a lot more engaging and interesting. I have to ask Kitten Sushi, because he's a big Warframe player, if he's tried that yet, and see what his feedback is. Rust, the infamous survival game, just got announced for Xbox. It'll be coming to consoles. And Nintendo, following up their Tetris 99 Battle Royale Tetris release last year, is now announced that they're going to have a 99 Pac-Man game. So you'll have Pac-Man to Battle Royale.
But they shut down the guy that was making the Mario Royale.
Well, yeah, that would be Nintendo's lawyers. Never a fun bunch.
They can't do a Mario Royale, but they're going to do Pac-Man Royale because Pac-Man's a hot Nintendo property. Something.
Yeah. Well, neither was Tetris, right? I mean, they obviously licensed it, but that is a Switch exclusive, Switch Online exclusive too.
So my money comes in. I get my wallet out when they make Kirby Royale, where 99 Kirbys drop on the map and proceed to eat each other until only one giant Kirby is left.
Oh no!
Because the more Kirbys you inhale, the fatter you get, right? So but at the end
Right.
it'll be like 2 kaiju class Kirby's.
That would actually be interesting. It reminds me of that crab game we played where like you got bigger, you get to be a bigger crab the more people you killed. All right, so one last quickie. Time Splitters 2, there is a full 4K port of the game hidden inside Homefront: The Revolution. I originally saw this. What's that?
Is that why the game's so big?
Yeah, well, what was interesting about this to me was they lost the button codes to unlock it. It's like a old school Contra code style thing that you have to input. And at least the version I saw originally was the Xbox code because somebody figured it out. But I guess it does work on the PC version as well. So you can do the same code and unlock it on PC, on Steam, the Steam version at least. I've seen that confirmed. So all that was kind of fun, silly stuff. This next story just makes me mad. And I admit I have a hate relationship with Activision Blizzard these days. I worked for Blizzard for a very long time and really loved the company. And what it is today is nothing like, the company it was when I worked there. So I feel some bitterness and resentment. But they posted record quarterly profits again. Congratulations to them. And then promptly laid off more than 50 people. The original story that's in here said 50. It came out after. It was more like 100, over 100. And it included a number of people from esports team, the esports part of the business, because obviously esports with COVID have been way down. But it was people from across the company. Sounds like they were just cleaning house. And
so
that's not...
So what happened? It was like, because I see the story here, like World of Warcraft 40-player raid boss beaten by just 2 gamers, and that's what triggered him to lay off 100 people.
That is not related, interestingly, but yeah, that's another fun one.
It was like, did you hear that 2 people beat that whole raid? All right, I need to see 100 of you in my office.
Called on the carpet for not being hard enough. But yeah, it just disgusts me that Activision Blizzard will lay people off after being so successful. A related story to this was Bobby Kotick's in line for another $230 million bonus or something, because the company's stock price is up so much. So it's like, yeah, if you just taken 30 million off of that bonus that you're going to pay Kotick, you probably could have kept all those people employed for several years. So
well, the question is, once you get $200 million, right, and you're going to get another $200 million next year, right? So it's like, what do you do with that money other than political meddling? Because that's really all you can do is just buy politicians at that point.
Buy gold Wii consoles. I don't know. I mean, yeah, it seems insane.
Yeah, it's an unhealthy amount of money for any human being to have. And I'm not a communist. I'm very capitalist, but at some point you just gotta not.
Well, there's not much more to do with it.
Yeah, the incentive has left, so why are you still doing?
Right. That's sometimes been my thought process too on some of that stuff. But anywhoozle, yeah, it's been a crazy time since we had a little interim there between doing our shows, so a lot of news to try and cover, but there's definitely a lot more. But we're back, baby, and better than ever, I guess.
Let's not overpromise here.
Yeah, sorry.
The mediocre quality you've come to expect from this podcast.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting into our new house so I can start getting some things set up, because I'm definitely wanting to gear up to do some more community nights, stronger community nights, more gameplay, and just hanging out and having a good time with folks. Getting some of that.
Absolutely. There's a whole new Among Us map we haven't played.
Oh, man, I played that last night with a couple of buddies. It's a big one. Boy, howdy. There's... I feel like they need to up the player count to like 15 for that map. It's pretty redonkulous. But it's cool. I really dig it though. They've added
this
some.
This is the airship thing.
Yeah, so they've added in some like new animations because you can go up and down ladders now, so it's multi-tiered. And there's like mechanics of certain like there's like this hover floor that gets you from one side of the ship to the other. But like if it's on the other side and you're trying to use it, you actually have to go around the whole ship just to get to it. Uh,
Oof.
so like there's some interesting little mechanics with it. If the doors get closed, you actually have to use like a you don't punch in a code. You actually have to use the administrative key card slide thing on it, and so there's some weird things. There's like a clogged toilet you have to plunge. So there is space toilets in here now, Jim. Um,
Starshitter.com.
Oh dear
Brought
God.
to you by.
so. So there's some really cool stuff going on with there, but we are still running our giveaway over on Discord. So when we get to 100 people on the Discord, we will do a $25 gift card giveaway, one a week for 4 weeks. So tell all your friends, come by, hang out, chat, and have fun. Join the community nights. It's a grand old time on over here. And our next episode, we actually already recorded. It's kind of our catching up from what we've been doing for the last month and a half. So we are really looking forward to getting back into the groove of things. So see you guys on the next episode. This has been episode number 14.
Yeehaw.
So we're just not going to talk about the FPGA.
Sadly, no.
Okay, so post show. This is the bonus episode. So tell us, what have you been doing with the Mister?
I have so somebody figured out that they could run a bare metal OS on the Raspberry Pi 3B and up that using sort of existing emulators would run the old MT32 and other Roland sound modules pretty much perfectly.
Oh.
So
but that's on the Mister. So you
go ahead.
Oh, never mind. I was going to say, so you turn the Mister into a Raspberry so you can run the MT32.
No. What you do is get a Raspberry Pi, stick this, software on it, and then you hook it up to the Mister, and the Mister uses it as a sound card. So if you go play like the old DOS games, you can get the original, really good MIDI soundtrack.
What?
With the DOS game off of a Raspberry Pi.
How good does it sound?
I have a real MT32 and a real SC55, and it is indistinguishable. My only complaint is the default volume is slightly different, but that could very well be the age of my, MT32.
So if I wanted an MT32, I buy a Raspberry Pi and install this package on it, and then I have one.
Yeah.
So, okay. So how, since you have an MT32, what interface does that hook to your PC with? Is it MIDI? Like you need a MIDI card?
You need a MIDI cable. Roland makes a USB to MIDI interface that has MIDI on MIDI in and out cables on one end, and it has a USB interface on the other. So the way mine's actually hooked up, I should make a wiring diagram because it's super ridiculous, but it goes from the Mister, which is acting as a PC, through USB to the SC55 MIDI in and MIDI out. Then I have a MIDI through cable, which is just a standard MIDI cable going to the MT32 in. Then I go from the MT32 through to another USB MIDI interface, and that goes to the Raspberry Pi. But the only reason I did that is because I wanted to keep all of my MIDI stuff in line. So, because it all like waterfalls through each of the devices. But if you just have the Mister and the Pi, there's a way you don't even have to plug the Pi into power. It'll power off the Mister off of a single cable. And you can get a Pi hat that has buttons and a display on it, a little OLED, like single color OLED pixel display that'll do like the animated bars, and you can switch whether you're emulating, different sound cards and all that stuff through that little interface. So like if you want, because general MIDI sounds way different than MT32 MIDI, so you can switch between emulating those different sound modules.
But can I turn it into a Sound Blaster 64?
No, but you can emulate the Sound Blaster 16 in like the DOS stuff for Mister has an SB16 built into it essentially.
Yeah,
but not the 64 or the
so
32.
Are sound cards even a thing anymore? Like I haven't heard of anybody putting a sound card in their box, like just the onboard.
They are. Go talk to Brian. He'll tell you all about it.
Nah, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, mainly it's just now it's taking the digital signal and converting it to analog much cleaner. So the DAC, buying the like Burr Brown super high end DAC is typically where you see people buying those high end sound cards. But it's really just the same people who buy the ridiculous headphones.
Right. Well, because I'm thinking like 99% of PC gamers are just using the like onboard who the hell makes that thing?
Cirrus Logic or one of those, yeah.
Yeah,
well, that's because it's all digital now, right? You're not making the sounds, you're playing back a recorded sound. So that's why it's not such a big deal anymore.
Yeah.
Because it used to be the chip was actually doing, FM synthesis. You were actually creating the sound on the board, but now you're just playing back something, that was probably recorded in a studio or whatever.
So it's all samples like old rap music.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So
well,
I think that's why it's not a thing. But yeah, so that was super cool. But the article that I linked is actually The Verge. Basically, one of their writers got a Mister and like went down the rabbit hole, and so it was kind of a neat little primer.
This wasn't the
Mister.
same person that built the gaming PC, was it?
I don't know.
Because you remember that, right?
I do. Yeah, I don't think it's the same person, but I could be wrong. But it was interesting because the Mister is based on a specific Tarasic FPGA board, which is they're owned by Intel. And so that board started selling out like crazy after this article got published. So it's actually really hard to get the Mister right now. So,
well, there you have it.
It's part of the Mister shortage of 2021.
Yeah, who knew?
This has been your bonus content for episode number 14.